is 1 hour 30, Universal Time. I'm Jim Tedder in Washington. President Bush made a surprise visit to Baghdad on Tuesday. During a meeting with Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, Mr. Bush said the United States would continue to support Iraq. Mr. al-Maliki told President Bush that his government will succeed in efforts to defeat terrorists. Mr. Bush also met with American forces in Iraq and thanked them for their service. The trip was his second visit to Iraq since the American-led invasion there in 2003. The new leader of al-Qaeda in Iraq says he will answer the killing of Abu Musab al-Zarqawi soon. A United States military strike killed the former leader of the group last week. The message from Abu Hamza al-Muhajir appeared on an internet site Tuesday. He also threatened to continue attacks on United States forces and Iraqi Shiites. In other news, 5 bomb attacks in the northern city of Kirkuk have killed at least 17 people. The explosions happened at about the same time. Several policemen are among the dead. Israeli troops have shot and killed a Palestinian militant in the West Bank. The Israeli military confirmed the killing. The attack comes just hours after an Israeli airstrike on a vehicle in Gaza City killed at least 11 Palestinians. More than 30 others were wounded. Palestinian medical workers say the attack killed 2 children and 7 other civilians. Israel says it targeted a vehicle carrying Palestinian militants on their way to fire rockets into southern Israel. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas urged the international community to act immediately to end Israeli aggression. A group of 7 East African nations has ordered restrictions against the leaders of several warring groups in Somalia. Members of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development met in Kenya. They ordered bans on travel and bank business for the warring leaders. But they said they would cancel those bans for any warring leader who surrenders and agrees to talks with the temporary government of Somalia. Warring groups ousted the Somali government 15 years ago and have ruled much of the country since. Last week, they lost control of the capital, Mogadishu, to fighters loyal to the country's Islamic courts. The United Nations Security Council has voted to end some restrictions on weapons sales to Liberia. The action is meant to help the new Liberian president arm her police and security forces. Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf had argued that lifting arms restrictions would help bring security to the country after years of civil war. In other news, Ms. Johnson Sirleaf dismissed 3 top government officials as part of her efforts to end official wrongdoing. She also dismissed 5 middle-level officials at Liberia's Department of Finance. Her office has announced that the government would soon publish reports on several investigations of Liberian agencies. Power has been restarted at the United States Diplomatic Office in Havana, Cuba, Tuesday, after 8 days without electricity. The Havana office has been using special equipment to supply power. A State Department spokesman says no similar power problems have affected other buildings nearby. Cuba has denied American charges that it cut off power to the American office in Havana. A statement from the Cuban government strongly denies that there were any planned electricity cuts. Cuban officials have complained in the past about an electronic sign on the diplomatic office of the United States. The electronic sign shows messages about democracy and human rights. President Bush is set to welcome Colombian President Álvaro Uribe to the White House Wednesday. The two men plan to discuss free trade, security, and human rights issues in Colombia. They last met in February. Mr. Uribe and leaders from Bolivia, Ecuador, and Peru met in Quito, Ecuador, Tuesday. The four South American nations want the Bush administration to extend trade agreements as an award for efforts to destroy crops used to make illegal drugs. The four Andean nations are trying to strengthen their trade alliance after Venezuela withdrew. Venezuela left because Colombia and Peru signed trade deals with the United States. A new study says the world opinion of the United States has worsened in the past year. The Pew Research Center says the war in Iraq is the cause. The researchers say public opinion of the United States is lower even among traditional allies. The researchers say that in many countries, people consider the United States occupation of Iraq more of a danger to world peace than any possible nuclear threat from Iran. The researchers say that the opinion of the United States decreased the most in Spain. The United States and Australia have expressed disappointment at the release of a militant religious leader from an Indonesian prison. A spokesman for the American State Department said the prison term served by Abu Bakr Bashir was not long enough. Bashir is in prison for his part in bombings that killed more than 200 people in Bali in 2002. He is to be released after serving 25 months. Australian Foreign Minister Alexander Downer also expressed disappointment at the planned release. Half of the Bali bombing victims were Australian. Afghan officials say suspected Taliban rebels killed an intelligence officer in central Ghazni province Tuesday. And a United States military vehicle pulling another vehicle crashed into a motorcycle in the capital, Kabul. The crash killed one Afghan civilian and injured another. And now, briefly, here again is the major news of the hour, read in VOA Special English. President Bush has made a surprise visit to Iraq. The new leader of Al-Qaeda in Iraq says he will answer the killing of Abu Musab al-Zarqawi soon. And Israeli troops have shot and killed a Palestinian militant in the West Bank. And that's the news in VOA Special English. From Washington, this is Jim Tedder reporting.